Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. Gracias por acompañarnos. Thank you for joining us. My name is Raul Suarez-Rodriguez, and I lead the Global Economic Inclusion and Supply Diversity Program here at Merck. Also, I'm happy to share the Procurement Council here at USHCC. Thank you again for joining us. And today is going to be a treat for you guys because we're going to be talking about how to be part of the corporate supply chain. So the objective of this section is to really hear from my peers, corporate supply diversity professionals from Fortune 500 companies to learn and connect with categories, commodities, and services on how we procure services from diverse suppliers, especially for Latinos and Latinas. And I'm joined here today with an amazing group of panelists that in a moment, they're going to be joining on the stage to really do a quick introduction of themselves. First one is Jason Cipriano. He's the head of corporate management and strategic sourcing at Mass Mutual. In addition, I have Angel Colón, senior director, diversity and inclusion and supply inclusion at Kroger, also a co-chair of our USHCC Procurement Council. And last but not least, Yvette Monton, senior supply diversity manager at AT&T. So I think I have all my panelists here with me. Welcome.
Hi, Raul.
Yvette, are you here with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Awesome. All right. Your camera is not on, so quick technical check.
Yes,
Excellent.
My apologies for the background, but welcome, bienvenido, and happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm happy that you guys are here. So Yvette, since you're the only female on this panel, I'll turn over to you so you could do a quick introduction of yourself.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here. I've been with AT&T for 22 years, and I have always been engaged with the supplier diversity initiatives, either as an ambassador, and until about approximately 10 years ago, I was a full-time supply diversity manager. I handle the legal, HR, call centers, finance, and taxes. And I also manage the Latina X community. And yo hablo español, so I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. Jason, over to you.
Hola, mi nombre es Jason Cipriano, and I lead strategic sourcing and category management at Mass Mutual. Mass Mutual is about 170 years old. It's a mutual life insurance company, which is to say that we exist for the benefit of our members and our policyholders. In my current role, I oversee our sourcing of approximately $1 billion in goods and services spread across the company. I work very closely with our supplier diversity team, and I am a former head of supplier diversity and advocate for diverse suppliers to do more business with corporate America. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Jason. Angel, to you now.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Raul, and good afternoon. Buenas tardes, everybody. Angel Colón, and I born and raised in San Juan, Puerto Rico. I'm a father of 3. I've been married for 31 years, been in the food industry for over 30 years, and have worked for Goya Foods, Kellogg's, and Kroger. So I've had the honor to work for a Hispanic vendor, a CPG, and a retailer. So it's been a great career. I've been 14 years with Kroger next month, and I lead the diversity, equity, inclusion, and supplier inclusion for our company. It's been an honor to do that. And also I had the greatest honor to work alongside Raul as co-chair of PCAP. So thank you, Raul, for having me. And thank you, everyone who joined us today.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for those introductions. So as you could see, those are joining us now. We had a great amount of experience in the field of procurement, also in the field of supply diversity. So again, you're here joining us on this panel discussion about how to be part of America corporate supply chain. So let's dive into it. So Jason, I'm going to start with you. And, quick question, how come businesses can get involved with corporate supply chain? Also, what is the best way that HBE, Hispanic Business Enterprises, engage with procurement and do business with the companies, represented here?
That's a great question. And I'll just give a couple of tips in terms of the businesses that I have seen be effective in dealing with corporate supply chains. Is one, they identify the right people within the organization to speak to. And typically that's the supplier diversity team. It's pretty easy to find those people, generally speaking. If you do a LinkedIn search, most people have those keywords tagged to their profile. So if you just take a few minutes, you look at that. Also, many corporate websites have specific instructions for diverse suppliers to register and get in contact with the team. So that should be the primary way that you reach out to the corporation, and they'll be able to help you along that process. Many of us large corporations have a process for registering suppliers, so working with the supplier diversity team can be ultimately very helpful.
Excellent. Angel, I know you have a great saying about what that is, especially what Jason just said about the right people. What is that? Because I want people to really understand, who are we as supply diversity professionals?
Who are we as supplier diversity professionals?
Yeah, we are the access, what?
Yeah, it's all about access. Absolutely. You know, every time we talk to a diverse supplier, it is the first word they ask: how can I get access to the decision makers? So that's the key word. Starts with A. It's all about access, and because once the access, it's all up to the supplier to really show what makes them different and show what value they can add to the business. So access is critical here. Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. So Angel had told me, right? We supply diversity professionals are the access provider. So
Yep.
that's what we are here to really get you connected to the right, the channels that would take you to that. This is not a destination. This is a journey. So it takes a lot to get us here. So, and then I heard that supply diversity professionals are also called, opening doors, right? We open doors because, again, we are the access provider. Yvette, did you want to add anything else as part of that question? How can businesses, particular HBEs, Hispanic Business Enterprise, can engage with procurement teams?
Absolutely. I totally concur with Angel's and Jason's words of wisdom. And I would like to add that it's very important that prospective suppliers research and fully understand the corporate supply chain history, current practices, and future goals. And also, as noted before, you want to build relationships with corporate supply chain representatives and stakeholders that collaborate with the corporate supply chains. With regard to AT&T, our recommendation is to visit our website at www.attsupplydiversity.com. Again, www.attsupplydiversity.com. There's no ampersand between the A and the T. And also continue to participate in matchmaking sessions. I was speaking with someone yesterday through this wonderful conference, and I had met them through another conference. So continue to participate in these types of conversations and events. And when we get out of this pandemic mode, get out there. You have that access that Angel was talking about. You have to have FaceTime with people so people can remember you and see you and build those relationships. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Yvette. I think you said something very critical, right? Do your homework, right? Do your research. I think that's really, really important. Sometimes, suppliers come to us thinking, oh yeah, I know who you are. And then we just start going down into details about what we do as a company. They cannot back it up. They cannot follow the conversation because they don't know enough about our corporations. And, it's just because they don't do the homework. And you said it, right? Like similar to what you said about AT&T website, each of us have websites, and that's a really good way to look at each of us, what each of us are doing. If you want to know details, go to the investors page and then look at the filing, and then you could really see where we are heading directionally, because it's an information that is public and, can really help you educate yourself on how to approach us, right? So again, very well said, find the right access point, connect and build the relationship with those that can help you navigate the waters. Keep in mind, it is not a destination, it's a journey, and it takes time. And also do your homework. I really, really love those 3 points, and I think those are critical for those HBEs that are listening now to really pay attention to these tips that we're providing you today. Again, thank you for joining us. This is the Corporate Supply Diversity, Be Parts of America Corporate Supply Chain. And I'm gonna go over to Angel now and ask you a question. So Angel, what do you see? How can you describe the characteristics of a successful HBE to serve, a corporation?
Yeah, thank you, Raul. And by the way, I'd like to add to the last comment you made and Yvette made, not being prepared. Retailers, you've been in retail, I've been in retail, and there's also a tremendous advantage that our HBEs have when you're a retailer, our stores are out there. You can go see them before you even visit any of us and identify, you know, are there any opportunities that I can see here that I can meet those needs of that retailer? We call them, hey, you have all those museums out there that you can experience and look at them and identify where they can help. So when you work with a retailer, you have more resources to help identify and get to know that company. So, but anyway, back to the question, Raul, you know, I always start with this when they ask me characteristics of a successful supplier. And I had a supplier that the first time they visited us and didn't even sell us anything. They just asked questions. And they did ask questions 2 weeks in a row and then came back the third week and made the presentation. It's the best presentation ever made. So I think the characteristics of that vendor is they wanted to listen and understand our needs first. You got to understand what are the category managers or what are their needs. Don't start selling. First, spend some time learning their business and then identifying what they want, what they need. Another key one for us, at least at Kroger, can't speak for everybody else, is they focus on the entire category versus just their numbers. You know, sometimes you can have a vendor who's growing, but he's bringing the category down. And so this is all about the category. Sometimes they sell a lot of units, but they're hurting our dollars because the value of the product. And when, the last I heard is when we report to Wall Street, we report dollars, not units. So it is very important to make sure that you help that category. Also, the good ones share a lot of progress reports consistently. You know, they let us know where their business are. Remember, our decision makers and category managers have many other vendors, and the more insights you can provide on your business and the category, the more they're going to love you. I think communicating consistently is critical. Don't wait until 6 months to communicate with your vendor. Consistent communication and appropriate at the right time, not every day. Each category man will tell you when they need to speak with you. Be responsive when there's issues. That's really when you really find out who the real good HBEs are, is when there's issues. I mean, I think COVID told us a lot on who the great HBEs are. And then become a true partner. It's all about working together, being a partner versus just about your product. Make sure they also are usually resourced appropriately. Raul, everybody wants to grow. And sometimes when you give them that opportunity, they're not ready. They don't have the resources to grow. So the good ones, as they grow, they continue to invest and resource the company appropriately. And then lastly, the good ones align with our company's vision and mission. They really study us, like you and Yvette said. They really understand what we're all about, what we want to accomplish, and they align with themselves consistently. So there's a lot more, but I want to stay with the key ones that have been very critical for the ones that I've seen succeed in our company. Thank you, Raul.
Yeah, no, I truly appreciate that, Angel. And I don't know, Jason, did you want to add anything else in terms of what are those good characteristics of a successful HBE?
Yeah, I would say that Angel highlighted so many excellent points that I think many of us see as we work with successful HBEs. When I think of some of the more successful ones, when I think of some of the successful HBE CEOs that I've dealt with, they showed up prepared, as we've already said. So they knew who I was. They had researched the company. They researched my role and what I would need. They were able to talk about their value statement. Who are they? What can they bring to the table? What makes them different than maybe some competitors? They understood the kind of value that they could bring to the table. And one of the other things that I thought that I often see that HBEs that are successful do is they took the time to both understand our process. And at large corporations, I'm just going to be very clear here, the process of procuring can take time. And if you come to that first meeting and you think you're going to walk away with $1 million contract, you're probably going to be disappointed. Rather, what I would say is you need to understand what our process is. What documents are required at what stage, who's involved, how long it takes. And generally speaking, the larger the contract, the longer time it's going to take. So the successful HBEs also took the time to understand that and work with us to understand what our process should be or could be. And then the final thing is they worked hard on their proposals. And this is really critical. in many cases, you're competing against incumbent suppliers, and some of those suppliers are very large corporations, and they have entire teams working on their proposals. And you should not be discouraged in any way. I have seen small HBEs take business from very large corporations because they put more time and effort into a really strong proposal and presentation and work with us to understand what we were looking for. So I think when I think of successful HBEs, that's really what I think of.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Anything, Yvette, that you would like to add?
Well, Angel and Jason, of course, knocked it out the park with their answers, but I will briefly add that with regard to AT&T, we're looking for innovative suppliers. We need companies that are thinking outside the box. We're also looking for cooperative suppliers. They allow the vetting process to work, and this harkens back to what both Jason and Angel was saying about it takes time. So you have to be patient, allow the process to work. We're also looking for suppliers who are collaborative. They have to be able to display that they can develop sustainable and cost-effective solutions. And then they have to have excellent integration. They have to seamlessly be able to enter into our portfolio with minimal ramp-up times. And then finally, again, reliability and availability. They have to provide a quality solution that works every time at any time. So much is happening in this world right now where we have unexpected weather conditions and, the pandemic. So a lot of flexibility and being able to pivot. But those are my suggestions from an AT&T perspective. Thank you.
Awesome. I truly appreciate that. As you could see, those that are listening or watching, it's important. And one of the things that, we do as part of Merck Supply Diversity Program is start with know. And I think you heard it, right? Start with know the people. We heard that before. Know the process. We heard that from Jason. Know the purpose. You heard that Angel, saying that we had to align to the company's mission, and values, and also know the pipeline. There's a lot that we polish, and we said that at the beginning outside, and then know the performance. It is important to understand your performance and how you could enhance the performance of the company that you would like to that you like to approach, that you like to connect with. And I love what Yvette wrapped it up with. It's just like, you need to be able to be innovative, and you are able to be able to cooperate. And there's so much focus to do business with large corporations, but think about the value that you could bring to us if you're formalizing a joint venture with another HBE. So don't forget that you also have another target audience, and it's your HBE community. That you could be formalizing something that could be even bigger for all of us here in this panel and all the corporate members of USHCC. And I think Jason said it very well. Like, you are competing with an incumbent, someone that has a contract that has already been proven. If you could come together strong as two for one, that would be amazing. And that's something that we will value, because again, we're driving that inclusion, and we're going to be creating those economic opportunities for underrepresented communities, and in this case, the Hispanic business community. So we talked about, how to be successful. So now let's switch that out to see what type of mistake we should avoid. And Angel, I will go over to you. What do you think, what are the most common mistakes that, that suppliers make when they're trying to pursue us?
Yeah. No, thank you, Raul. And actually, I think we all have experienced many in different ways because we're in different industries. I love to hear what else Jason and Yvette has to say, and you, Raul. But I think we mentioned them in a positive way. Let's turn it around. First are the ones that don't do the research. I cannot tell you how many times you're in a matchmaker and someone, hey, how many stores do you have and where are you located? That's in our website, all of that. So the lack of readiness and research, doing the research is one of the most common mistakes. Is it delays your time with that person. Also, they don't, Jason related to this, these days with technology, you can go LinkedIn and get to know about the person that you're going to connect with. So they don't try to connect with who or understand who they're going to meet with before they even meet with that person. I mean, you have organizations like USHCC, LinkedIn that can help you learn more about that person before you have that meeting, that first meeting. Many of them sell, and like I said earlier, don't listen first to understand their needs, and that's something you have to be very careful because that could hamper that relationship with that person. And then being realistic, you know, there's a mistake that because they get so excited that they talk to a big company, they get so excited about it that they'll say anything just to sell their product versus, hey, do I really have the resources and can I really add value to this company? If the answer is no, just be careful because then it could be troublesome down the road. Another mistake is you don't have insights. You don't get a lot of insights. You know, when you're trying to meet with someone and learn about their business, they're not sharing their insights about results they have with other companies, results or experiences they have in the same industry. So that could be a mistake, not being able to share what you have accomplished. So you can have a right to be able to share your successes. The other one is articulated, that differentiated advantage that you have. Jason referred to that, articulating that very clearly. Sometimes I can't tell you how many times I've looked at a capability statement and you still not sure what makes them different. So that articulation is critical. Follow through is another one I've seen that sometimes you're a matchmaker, someone promises to follow up with you and then you don't have the follow through, and that can be difficult. You also have the other side of it, which is someone being overzealous. If the person tells you contact me in a month, contact them in a month. Don't start sending emails every other day. That could be a turn off for that contact. And then the last one, I think Raul, you referred to, is patience. There's some categories, you know, a lot of times in our companies, Jason referred to process. We have a process to get products in, to bring product services in. There is a schedule when these RFPs are going to happen, and some of them may take a year or two. That's just reality. Some of them may be a month. So I've seen where we brought someone within months and someone within years. So you have to be patient and realistic that every company has a different process and does things different. So they make the mistake of not being patient, being overzealous, too aggressive, and then that hampers that relationship, and it becomes very difficult for them to get in. So those are only a few. I'm sure the panel has plenty of others. Thank you, Raul.
Yeah, it's very true. Jason, did you want to add anything else?
Yeah, I'll just add one. So I'm a former CEO and owner of an HBE myself, and I know how difficult it can kind of be when you're trying to wear all the hats, right? You're trying to manage people, you're trying to maintain the website, you're trying to meet with investors and raise money and manage the budget, and you're also trying to put together proposals. You're trying to put together things that are going to get you business. What I would say is, and this just builds on what I said earlier, keep in mind that when you submit a proposal to our team, and especially if you're working with a supplier diversity team, internally, that proposal gets reviewed by a number of internal stakeholders, the business that's actually going to use the product or service, as well as other folks within procurement. And the supplier diversity professional is really representing you. They're there to promote you and help you out. You need to give them something that they can really feel good about bringing forward to the team. And if you're missing sections in your proposal, if you didn't read everything that was asked for, if you made too many assumptions, if you claim to do things that you can't really do, right? As we start to dig into it, these are all things that are going to be problems. So to really take the time, understand if it's an RFP or request for proposal, that's really a formal process where all the requirements are detailed out pretty specifically. Take the time to really understand those and then work with supplier diversity. You want to give them a product that they can be proud to put in line with all the other companies that have submitted proposals, and not something that they have questions about, that they might be hesitant about bringing forward.
Thank you, Jason, for that. Yvette, anything that you would like to add to that?
Yes, I would like to add that another suggestion that we recommend, or that we see, problems that we see rather, are a lack of competitive pricing in the bid. And to harken back to what Angel said about, incomplete responses to RFIs and RFPs. And then I'm prepared to answer questions. So if I am speaking with a prospective supplier and they said, oh, we did business with AT&T before, and I say, well, who did you work with? You should anticipate that I would be asking a question like that. What did you do? What would department? I mean, people change and reorganize, but you want to be intuitive and think about, what those questions, whether they're going to, and anticipate what will be asked of us. And then also the untimely responses to emails and phone calls. I know oftentimes we will go out and search for a company and we can't find the exact person who we should reach. And we'll go to the contact us box and we may not get a response for a couple of days. So it's imperative that you have a good point of contact on your website and respond when someone sends you something in that general mailbox. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? I know Jason said it, right? Because he brings that perspective of being an HBE himself. You know, you're wearing too many hats, but make sure that your infrastructure is built to just fulfill what the simple task that Yvette just mentioned, right? How can I reach out to you and then I can get an answer? Because we're moving and we're moving fast, and we want to make sure that we get you invited. So another thing that I think that I would like to highlight in terms of that process on the RFP, yes, it's critical that you walk through the whole questionnaire, whatever it is that is being asked, and you take the time to analyze, digest, and then come prepared with questions. Depending on the companies, sometimes when the RFP is going at that particular time, you don't have time. You don't have the time to really talk to supply diversity professionals because it's just now confidential, and then you don't want to burn any bridges. So you want to make sure that if you know that you're going to be getting invited because you were nurturing the relationship and you get in there, make sure that you get prepared before then, because you won't have the time to go and ask particular questions or get the advocacy that we could give you. The moment the RFP is live, in my career, sometimes we don't have any saying at that point. So, but the RFP has a window for Q&A. Make sure you get all those questions ready, you submit it, and you get the answer. And don't forget, sometimes pricing, it will be a determining factor. And, Yvette said it, you need to make sure that you're competitive in your pricing. If not, then you will be out. Now, you got to the RFP, you were going through the process, you didn't get the opportunity. Use that as a learning, because a mistake we see is you get disengaged, you just get disappointed, and you have your reasons, and we can relate to that and we understand those. But use that opportunity to learn and see what else can you do better next time, because guess what? If you provide a service, maybe is not good for Kroger at the time, and you didn't get it, but maybe good for Merck. And from the learnings of the RFP, you could bring those in, and then you could excel on whatever it is that you missed, and then now you could win that opportunity. So see that as a learning, don't see that as a disappointment, because sometimes I see that a lot, and that's a mistake. You shouldn't be feeling that way, because again, use it as your learning. And then also, Angel said it, follow through. It is important to follow through, because 2 out of 10 suppliers that we meet will follow up. The rest won't follow up, because again, you get discouraged, because again, I said at the beginning, this is not the destination, this is a journey, and it'll tell time throughout the journey. And I think every of my panelists here have mentioned how how long does it take, because there's a process in place, right? So in the group earlier, we talked about matchmaking. Angel, do you want to add anything else?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Raul. Everybody make great points, and I think we got to align what you're saying to a previous question. I think it was at the beginning, the first question, how we're the access providers. But another mistake that has to do with everything you're saying there is we're not the decision makers. And what happens is when they don't get the business, then they think it was our decision, and we're there to help you and to guide you through the next steps and what to do next and all of that. But always remember, we're not the ones making the decision. and then what happens, there's a lot of miscommunication when that's not understood. So it is critical to really separate the two between we being access providers versus decision makers, and reminding that we're your advocates. We're here to help you. Even when you do get a business, that doesn't mean it's the end of it. Continue, like you said, to follow through. And you never know. I cannot tell you how many of my vendors are now doing millions because, they were declined a few times, but they kept persevering and communicating appropriately.
That's actually a really good point that I was hoping to make at some point as well, is many of our successful HBEs didn't start with $1 million contracts. They started with a much smaller contract. And then over time, they demonstrated their capability. Our team got to know them better, and they built up. And I've just seen this at multiple companies where the most successful HBEs are ones that are in it for the long term.
Great point. Great point. And again, I'm glad you brought it up because, again, we're not decision makers, right? And, we're just influencing and advocating on behalf of our diverse suppliers, in this case, HBE. So we're great points. Again, for those joining us, you are enjoying a great conversation with my peers, Yvette, Jason, and Angel. And we're talking about, corporate supply diversity, how to be part of the corporate supply chain. So we talked about, what a successful HBE looks like, what are some mistakes that the HBEs will take, will do, and other suppliers, right? Not necessarily, HBEs, like the whole diverse supply. And again, this is something that also applies for those that are non-diverse, because, it is a journey, and we all learn throughout the journey. So we talked in our discussion points, we talked a little about matchmakings, and I know yesterday, USHCC brought up the business matchmakings as part of the programming for the Legislative Summit. So Yvette, can you walk us through? I had the matchmaking, right? What does a successful matchmaking look like from your point of view, and what does the HBEs need to do, right? I got a great meeting. I feel good about what happened yesterday. What tips do you have for them as part of that follow through now that the meetings are over?
Well, thank you so much for that. At AT&T, we really welcome good, concise capability statements. Those capability statements should, of course, include your value proposition. We recommend that the actual length not exceed 2 to 3 slides. And I also want to add that you should put the specific contact information at the top of the document that includes the name, the cell phone, especially because we're in, this pandemic situation, people's office numbers may not be working. Put the cell number, the email address, the best point of contact, and also the headquarters address, because oftentimes we have to track in our databases where the headquarters is located. And I would also suggest that when you prepare the capability statement, make sure it is like a resume. You target it to the particular opportunity that you're applying for. I've actually received capability statements that ran 20 pages that had all types of information that had nothing to do with what I was seeking. And as I had mentioned earlier, as an AT&T Supply Diversity, I handle the HR and the call centers and the legal and the marketing. So give me what I'm asking for. Don't oversell me with other things that I did not ask you for. And then, it harkens back to what we said earlier, be prepared, understand what we're looking for, make it crisp and clean. And also send me your current diverse certifications. I have actually experienced people who have sent me certifications that were expired or old. And if you don't have that certification, then please let us know that you're working on it so that we'll know that it's coming down the pike. And remember, again, to customize everything that you're doing, because the process of following up is always going to be on a case-by-case basis, depending upon, like what Angel was saying, the length of the agreement. This RFP may go on for a year. Stay in contact. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Jason, anything to add in terms of, okay, I have my meetings, what would be good tips to follow through? We heard Yvette, right? That contact information, following up with the right capability statement. Anything else that you'd like to add into that question?
Yeah, I think Yvette did a fantastic job and said, many of the things that I would say. One thing that I would add to it that I just don't see a lot of happening at networking events is, LinkedIn is a primary communications tool, at least to stay connected with folks. And I will even flag this. For those, and I don't know how many people we have in the audience right now, but you see on your screen the names of supplier diversity professionals and HBE advocates. You should be typing those into LinkedIn right now, even as you're watching this presentation, and connecting with all of us. Like, that's just a basic thing that you should be thinking about to do. That allows you to stay in touch. And then when we do have opportunities that come up, even if we can't remember, we may have forgotten about your company, we may do a search and just see who's in my network that can supply this product or service. We're connected on LinkedIn, you're going to show up. Like, those are the kind of little things that I think can make a big difference in the future. And one other thing that you should know about networking is, for many of us that work in supplier diversity, we have a network of other supplier diversity professionals. So if I don't know, if I'm looking to source something and I don't know a supplier, I'll reach out to my network and I'll say, you know, hey, Raul, do you have someone that you use for this? So if you've networked with Raul, there's always that chance that I may reach out to him and then he'll recommend you. He'll say, you know, talk to this person at this company. But if you make it difficult for us to do that, if you don't tell us clearly what your capabilities are and who to contact, then you're just making it difficult for us to recommend you to someone else.
Yeah, that's a good point. And also, just listen to what he said very carefully, right? It's a connection. It is not a selling platform. So just connect, but don't use that connection to spill out everything you do and expect that an opportunity will come to you tomorrow. So just is a good vehicle to build that relationship, to make sure that you stay connected. But don't come and use it as, okay, I'm now connected with Jason. Tomorrow he's going to send me a contract, or tomorrow I'm going to send him this long, things that I do for him to really pay attention to what I'm saying. No, it's not going to happen that way, because again, we also have our own email inbox that it gets tons of emails daily, and and we do more than just outreach. We do all the things internally, reporting, meetings with the stakeholders, ensuring that we're part of the strategy sessions and all that good stuff. So it takes time, but don't overuse LinkedIn. That's all I'm gonna say. just be careful and professional when you're doing so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Raul.
Awesome. Yes.
I'd like to add one thing and do something, if you don't mind.
Of course.
And this regards to you and this question, because this really happened through your support on a matchmaker. So one time, Raul recommended someone to come and see us in a matchmaker. And that company now is in a lot of our stores today, thanks to you suggesting them to come. And what I saw in that matchmaker that this vendor had was the 3 R's, okay? Readiness. They were ready, because sometimes you have someone who comes in the food industry, you have to have UPCs. Sometimes they come to us without UPCs. If you don't have a UPC, you're not ready to do business. So they were ready. They were respectful with follow through. We told them when to follow through and how to do it. And that's what they did. And they were resilient, but patient. They still kept the communications going and kept in contact with us. And at the right time, the opportunity was given. So it was the readiness, the respectfulness, and the resilience that got them in. And obviously there's many other things, such as the ones that Yvette and Jason explained, capability statement, all of that. But that was a key part of this successful matchmaking. It also falls on us. We need to help networking some vendors with other corporations and tell, hey, this is a supplier that's done a great job for us. We need to make that happen too, to make this successful matchmaker. I also, if you don't mind, I want to brag about you, Raul. You've been just a tremendous ambassador for supply diversity in our industry. And you have been very successful, whatever you've gone. And if the panel doesn't mind, I really want to turn that question to you, because you have a lot to provide. And I know you have already been chiming in, but we owe you a question, and maybe we can help you afterwards.
Let's go. I'm up for the challenge.
Is that okay with that? Okay. So, what are the best resources for HBEs to train themselves? Where will you send them? Where they can learn more, Raul? How can to get involved with corporations like us and their supply chains? How can you guide them today to say, hey, here's where you can go and train yourself and learn more about this industry, because you've been around a long time and have been successful. So I thought we'd turn this around and turn it back to you, if you don't mind. Is that okay, Yvette and Jason? There you go.
I love it. I like that interaction. So I'm happy to share. And I think before I answer that, I want to highlight again what Jason said. So we're part of the supply diversity professional community is really connected. It's a family. So the HBEs know, and not only we connect, this way, but also we connect through industry groups, right? The Angela was saying the food and beverage industry group, the financial services, the pharma, the telecommunications. So we all connect among themselves, and us, we help each other out. And as you heard Angel, we share suppliers, right? So today I got an email from, the pharma forum group asking for a particular supplier that can do X, Y, and Z. So we all jumping in and sharing who we know, and that way it's another access point that we're providing you. And you may not know that it's us, but we do that because we know who you are. Of course, we know who you are if you actually were able to articulate everything we just talked about, right? About your company, your value proposition, your point of difference, all of that good stuff. So, so I just want to point that out because I think it's important for the listenings and those that are watching to realize the power of the network among ourselves. So now going to your question. So I think it's important, number one, that you have that you strategize your outreach strategy, right? Number one, it's just like you are not going to fill all. Everybody does different, and your services may not be, aligned with Match Mutual or Merck or Kroger and AT&T. So at least target 2 or 3 companies that align with your services, what makes you different, and then target those. So now you could really excel on learning the processes, their vision, where they're going directionally. How can you really target your offerings to really meet their expectations? That's number one. Number two, how do you get the resources needed? So one of the things that suppliers tend to overlook is each of the advocacy groups that certify diverse suppliers. One of their pillars is that development, right? And we sometimes forget, or suppliers forget, that there are resources available there, that you're not capitalizing on that because okay, you're so concerned about, okay, I became certified but I don't have a contract. Okay, but are you really taking advantages of whatever else they're putting together to do? In the different conferences, there are tracks that talks about some of the things that corporations are doing, right? And you're not participating, you're not being there, so you have to be present. There's also development programs that these entities are putting together for diverse suppliers, and in this case HBE. So like NMSCC, for example, they're partnered up with Kellogg, and they're partnered up with Dartmouth. And then there's programs that some of us corporate members will sponsor some dollars so you guys can go, and then you're not applying and you're not being part of it. And I know it's another application, but you're getting tuition free. It takes that also commitment. And again, it's a shared responsibility. It's like our professional development. 50% of our development is shared with our managers. So we own it in both ends. And if we're not sharing that responsibility, we're not getting anywhere. So I think it's just like looking out and staying connected with the advocacy groups that represent you as the minority or whatever classification you have in the diversity spectrum. So that should be something that you look for, and look for those resources that are available there. Also, and most importantly, those targeted corporations that you want to be members of or part of, they also put programs together to really develop those suppliers. So right now, we just launched at the beginning of this month an advanced leadership program with Drexel University. So as a pharma company, we want to expand and amplify and elevate suppliers that can support us in the outstream of our supply chain, meaning research and development and manufacturing. So we partnered up with Diversity Alliance for Science to create this program. It is a 4-month program, and then we're fully sponsoring that program for our suppliers in the space. And it's going to help you with leadership development. It's going to help you with marketing. It's going to help you with finance. It's going to even get you ready for an RFP. So those are the things that you actually need to look at and see what can you tap into to be part of it, right? In addition to that, there's trade associations, and you should know who they are depending on where you are in your industry. Also tap into those trade associations, because there's a lot of learnings that you could get out of there, like new technologies, new tools that actually can help your business, and you're not seeing those, and those are things that you should be looking into, because I think they will bring a lot of value into. I hope that I did good in that answer, Angel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We knew you would.
Excellent, excellent. So again, for those joining and for those watching, this is the Corporate Supply Diversity panel, and we're talking about how to be part of corporate supply chain. So I'm joined here by Jason from Match Mutual, Yvette from AT&T, and Angel from Kroger. So we will continue our conversation, and now let's talk about, what can we do ourselves to continue to drive that inclusion, to continue to drive those opportunities for our HBE community. So, Jason, anything that you want to add there?
Yeah, I'm really excited about some of the innovative work that we're doing at MassMutual and that we're going to be putting forward as we continue to develop our supplier diversity program. Raul, you already mentioned one of the key ones is development programs, working with suppliers that maybe aren't fully ready for a big contract with us, but working with them and helping them develop their skills, helping them develop their proposals. We're also working on increasing what we call our tier 2 diversity spend, which is as we work with some large companies, working with them to identify subcontractors that are diverse. So HBEs that could come in as a subcontractor. And I always point that out to HBEs. That's a great route to come in and get familiar with us, is to be a tier 2 spend that we get familiar with, that gets you, into the process, that gets you, part of working with us. So we're excited about that. We are, pretty significantly increasing our outreach and our communication to HBEs and communications about opportunities, so that you'll have a chance to see what's coming and a chance to prepare for that. So there's some really strong partnerships that we're developing internally. And then one other thing I would say too that goes along with that is at MassMutual, we have totally rethought how we structure supplier diversity. And I can tell you that I've seen other companies and I've seen how they do it, where supplier diversity is kind of on the side and it's added into the mix. At MassMutual, we're building it in from the ground up. Supplier diversity is part of our category strategies. It's part of our strategic sourcing strategies. And I know I'm using some procurement words here that maybe some of the HBEs aren't familiar with, but just understand part of our core procurement activities when we go out to market to find companies to do business with us, supplier diversity is in from the very beginning of that process. And that really gives you an advantage. And it's something that not a lot of companies are doing. I'm really proud of the work we're doing at MassMutual.
Thank you, Jason. That's definitely important. It needs to be aligned and it needs to be integrated into the process. So Yvette, anything that you'd like to add?
Yes, I would like to add 2 points with regard to how corporations can continue to enhance. It's very important that the actual companies include supply diversity goals in their performance ratings to hold people accountable. I think that's extremely important. Also, I have to tell you, I have the most stellar leadership: Rachel Coots, Jelena Bolden, Heather Ramsey. They're visionaries, and they have continued to grow our supply diversity program. We celebrated 50 years of supply diversity approximately 3 years ago, and Rachel Coots, in her wisdom, said, you know what, we're doing a great job here, but instead of just focusing on the diverse spend, let's look at the diversity and inclusion and makeup of the companies that we're doing business with. So that's our second pillar. And the third pillar is looking at the educational opportunities and programs and internships and outreach that they have in the community and job creation. So those primes that have those capabilities will be put on a preferred supplier list. So it's extremely important that not only do you have a supplier diversity program, but that you continue to reevaluate it and see how you can make it better and to grow it so that you have a robust, best-in-class supplier diversity program. Thank you.
Thank you. Angel, do you want to add anything else in here?
No, you all did a great job on that. I'll just add a couple of things. And again, I like to tell stories, but it's really about the experiences we all have internally in our corporations to be able to share today. And I think it's your company has to be committed to this from the top. And so we at Kroger made a commitment that we're gonna within the next 10 years we're gonna get to our $10 billion, and that has really accelerated things here. And so it is very important that in order to help our HBEs, that we also make commitments to drive that business. Okay. And the other one is, to me, that really changed things for us, I would say a couple of years ago, is Yvette touched on it, is it's really being able to articulate economic impact to our decision makers. We created a video internally that was really impactful about some of our suppliers. And since that, we started that process, our category managers really started looking at this quite different than in the past. And we have seen the effects of that. And so I think something we can do is also making sure that internally we do a better job of explaining what economic impact or economic power and what it does, because it really helps us change the way we look at this business and our decision makers. But also, I like to challenge our HBEs is, you know, when you are with one of our corporations, we need to know your stories, because these stories really are important to our decision makers. And our leaders want to hear those stories because they want to be part of helping our communities. It's really how you tie it up to diversity, so, and inclusion and all of that. So, and that's the equity part of it. So I just want to make sure we don't miss that part, but thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for those points. And this is my favorite saying, and it is not about counting a spend, it's making that spend count, right? Mm-hmm. It is the work that we do with our, you know, diverse suppliers, including HBEs, is really important, because we know suppliers like you would hire people that looks and speak like you. So it's a multiplier effect, right? So it is driving that economic inclusion in your communities, because you're hiring people. Now those people that you're hiring, now they have more income to dispense, and by disposing this income, now they can come and shop at Kroger. Now they can go and buy a cell phone on AT&T, and now they can afford the medicines that we produce, and also they can actually buy the life insurance that Match Mutual sells. So that is the circle of inclusion we create with the work that we do in supply diversity. And I agree with you guys. It's just like it is really critical and important. And that's how we are looking at supply diversity now. And I think, Angel, you said it very well, is equity, right? So as us, a premier research pharmaceutical company, given everything that we experienced last year with the social unrest, we actually formalized a committee internally that is driving enhancing our economic inclusion efforts, which supply diversity is part of it. We're actually driving a global health equity, and also we're actually enforcing and our efforts on workforce development, because our people are important as well. But before I forget, I want to touch on something that Jason brought up: second tier. Second tier is as important as tier one. Mm-hmm. Don't HBEs that are listening, don't get hung up that I really want to do business with Merck. I really want to do business with AT&T. I really want to do business with Match Mutual. I really want to do business with Kroger. That's great. But you could do business with Kroger, Match Mutual, AT&T, Merck, through those big players. And those are opportunities that are on tap. You need to ask, as part of your research, you need to ask those supply diversity professionals, do you have a second tier? How do you connect suppliers like me with your primes? Do you have an event that I can come and meet with your primes? Do you have contract requirements to your primes? How can I get more engaged? So those are the type of questions you need to ask, because that's a business opportunity you're leaving on the table, because you're so narrow focused on doing business with the big players. And in order for you to do business with the big players, you may need to start small and then start growing from there. And another thing, I think we talked that at the beginning, sometimes small projects are the ones that are going to open the door for big projects. So just keep that on the mind. Be humble about and nimble about and we already know that, because, diverse suppliers are humble, nimble, agile, innovative, but sometimes your approach doesn't reflect that. So you need to make sure that you're approaching with that same type of mindset, that you are a go-getter, and then you're going to have the resilience and the patience to really get to where you want to go. So I know I can't believe we're getting go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to add one thing, because I thought it was so incredible what you and Anil and others have been saying too, is please don't let this lose sight of this as well. Your stories, like I cannot reinforce that your stories are powerful, and they are, especially when you're dealing with companies that have where that is important. I can tell you at Mass Mutual, if you work with us, you'll hear us talk about Live Mutual. It's the idea of empowering communities for economic security and wellness and other areas. And that's exactly what Angel is talking about when he's talking about, we know where the money is going. We know that it's staying in those communities. That aligns with our values. So for you to come and talk to us about that really does help us sell it internally and talk about some of these successes. And then some of us even have personal personal connections to those stories as well. Yo soy Chileno, so I don't know if I have any other Chilean friends, on the meeting today, but I'm an immigrant. Like that, to me, like I have a personal connection there. And I know other people have those kind of connections as well. Like that, don't underestimate the power of those stories.
Very well said. Very well said. It's important to really bring those stories live, because they would touch the heart and change the mind. Think about that. Those stories would change, would touch the heart and change the mind. So I just can't believe we are almost at time. I have been having so much fun with you guys. I don't want to leave, but I know we have only 5 minutes left. And, before I ask you a very last question, I just want to recap for those listening. So we heard about, how to be ready, how to be a successful HBE. We talked about some of the mistakes you need to avoid. We talked about a little bit about, what other areas you could actually expand your business, how to be on a state of readiness, which is really critical, right? And, we gave you some tips about how you go out to look for opportunities. Now, before we wrap it up, so my last question to each of you is, what advice do you have to any Latino and Latino entrepreneur who are watching today that can be good for each of our companies? So I'll start with you, Yvette. Ladies first.
Okay, the advice I have is when you're engaging with AT&T, especially with regard to your first impressions, always begin and end on a positive note. Begin and end on a positive note, and also find something in common with the buyer to establish a positive and unique connection. And Raul, you just mentioned it, about that relationship that you have coming from being immigrants. I love quotes. So my favorite one was something that I heard years ago from Mother Goose: good, better, best, never let it rest until your good is better, until your better is best. So do something that makes you different and unique so that they'll remember you. So again, always be very positive with people, and end on that good note and start on that good note. And I want to thank also the panelists that I work with. AT&T is honored and proud. I've been taking copious notes the whole time, because even as a panelist, I've been learning. So thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvette. Jason.
I think the biggest takeaway for the HBEs and the leaders of the HBEs that are listening in is just keep this in mind. Whether you get the contract or not, and hopefully you do get the contract, but whether you get it or not, we want to do business with you. We are actively trying to do business with you and other businesses like you. We have teams of people in supplier diversity and procurement that are actively trying to do business with you. And if you ask questions, if you're diligent, if you work at it, we will help you in the process, or we'll be honest with you if there just isn't a fit. But most of the time, we can just help you through that process. Stick with it. Understand you might not walk away with the contract on day one, but if you stick with us, the greatest success stories are the people that are in it for the long haul. Thanks.
Thank you. Angel.
Yeah, Raul, I agree with Jason and Yvette. Great points. I can talk about, hey, be a lifetime learner and listener and persevere, all of that. But I'm going to internalize it to Kroger. And I don't know if you Latinos realize Mexican food, because we're a food company, is now more popular than Italian food. It's already number one among Americans. And so we as Latinos have the power of innovation in food. So from an advice, if you have a unique innovation, a unique product, a unique service, but innovation in food, we want to listen from you. This is a tremendous growing segment, and continue to work that aspect and that angle, because we continue to see the insights and the trends, and Latin food is at the top now. So please leverage that and help us to be innovative and bring new product to our customers, because they're hungry for comida Latina, no doubt about it. Thank you, Raul. You've been great. And Jason and Yvette, you also been wonderful. Thank you.
Awesome. So, okay, we have 2 more minutes left here, and I'm just going to wrap it up. Number one, by thanking you, the audience, for joining in and listening in to the tips, advice that we have for you today. Again, the intent was to provide you with stories, right, that will resonate with you, to really help you, navigate the waters of Fortune 500 companies, but as well at how can you do better when interacting with supply diversity professionals, understanding the process that each of our corporations had to follow in order to drive that inclusion. Number two, I would like to thank my distinguished panelists. You guys have been amazing. I think this time flew by, and I just can't believe we're about to wrap it up. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for tuning in and being part of the ride of this ride this afternoon. And again, for the HBEs, stay strong, keep looking at those potential opportunities. This is to Jason's point, stay for the long run, and definitely encourage you to continue to follow through. It's important, and you heard it from each of the panelists. Do your homework, and be ready, because we're here for you. We're here with you. With that, thank you, and continue to enjoy the Legislative Summit. And then if you took pictures, post it on LinkedIn, hashtag USHCC Legislative.
Thank you.
Adios.